I have my drink.
Yeah.
So you like the new 5.1 version?
The eyes are so much better. It's so much more realistic. Yeah, because I used to have to take the eyes out of the ones you sent me and put real eyes in it, so it looked better when I blew it up. But I don't have to do that anymore. You're making it so much simpler for me.
Wow, it's not me.
Well, yeah, but you have to coax the algorithm, right? You have to kind of tickle it.
We're live.
Are we?
Yeah.
Oh shit! Sorry.
We are live, but hey, that's cool.
Hey,
YouTube, let's do this.
Well, I started this story in the middle of the page. I remembered the lines and forgot my age. When somebody said my attitude was snotty, that's when you call and say get out tonight. I catch a late night movie on a late night flight. I'll be getting real drunk and making fun of everybody. Ain't nobody gonna get me down. Something must have gone around. You can stick that sign up your ass, the one that says it won't last. My sugar buzz is growing higher and higher every day. Your sarcasm cuts like a knife. I'll have the time of my life. My sugar buzz is growing higher and higher every day. To a party last Saturday night. You know, I think I got laid, then I got in a fight. I don't remember that much, but I think I liked it. I saw some band called Roses and Sake, and they brought back the rock, and the singer was cocky. 2 years later, I'm sure they'll forget about it. Ain't nobody gonna get me down. Something must have gone around. Yeah, you can stick that sign up your ass, the one that says it won't last. My sugar buzz is growing higher and higher every day. Your sarcasm cuts like a knife. I'll have the time of my life. My sugar buzz is growing higher and higher every day.
And hey, everybody, welcome to Squatch Talk. I'm Pat. How's everybody doing tonight? Glad you're here. Appreciate each and every single one of you. Tonight, we have Mr. Brendon from CARC. CARC. Catskill Appalachian Research Collective.
CARC.
And, sorry. And Snowalker Prime himself, Mr. Mike Merchant. Thanks for being here, guys. Thanks for being on the show, man. We're just gonna We're gonna go for it here, free for all.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah. So, just if you guys don't know, which you should, this week in Bigfoot, that the CARC has been putting out lately, cranking out those episodes every week. He took 1 week off, but good stuff. And of course, smack dab in the middle of it is 2 minutes with Snowalker Prime. And yeah. And it's kind of I think it's kind of become the meat and potatoes, and sort of like, well, we got to see that, like, what they're always going to be talking about this, that, and the other. That's cool, but we're always going to get those 2 minutes with Michael Merchant. And so both those things, like, it's been a success, man. Congratulations. I love it. I tune in every week, even if, I have to watch it 2 days later. It's YouTube, right? So
yeah, it's funny because when I first approached Michael about this, I figured, okay, maybe he'll do one, and then he's going to get bored, and then he's going to just go, I don't want to freaking do this anymore. But it's kind of grown legs. It really has. And that's why it's in the middle of the episode, because I just say, hey, give me whatever you got, dude. So whatever Michael has for whatever's on his mind, right? You just give it to me.
You guys are giving me way too much credit.
Well, I mean, you're the one that you got to admit.
It flows. It's definitely flowing. The jump. So I want to know who does the jump cuts. Michael, are you doing the jump cuts, or Brendon?
Brendon is the master editor. I mean, look when he puts that show together. The editing's impeccable.
Well, but the jump cuts, that the way the comedy is, Michael puts it all together, and then he gives it to me, and I kind of just polish it.
Like, well, yeah, I would imagine. Yeah, Michael, like you're kind of doing most of it, because you're doing sort of the back and forth, with the different voices and the different angles, and like, it's really cool. I like it. It's
thank you.
It gets to the point real quick. It makes the point. There's something very persuasive about it, I'll say.
And that's why there's a clock, right? If you notice, there's a little clock down in the corner that clicks, right? Once he starts, he's got 2 minutes, right? And he's got to get it in there. So, sometimes it goes a little long and I'll have to cut it right where it should be. But most of the time it's you slow the clock down a little bit. I can slow it down a little bit. I can speed it up a little bit, the magic of Hollywood. But honestly, to be honest, I think we've hit on something that, first of all, I'm having a lot of fun doing it. And I think that's the most important thing.
Good.
And I'm hoping that Michael is too. Because it's very...
I'm having you suggested, I think originally you said 2 to 5 minutes, right? And then I ended up making one. Having it short really helps. And if I just get out there and complain about stuff, it just sounds like I'm whining. Right? So if you try to give both sides of the argument, even if you're being sarcastic when you do it,
right?
I don't know. I think it's more palatable, I guess.
It is. I mean, it is. It all depends. The delivery is where it's at, I think. And yeah, I'm patting you on the back, Michael, but it has become a big part of the show, and I think that, like I said, it's continuing to evolve now that we've kind of found our niche. Now I can put a little bit more gravy on it. I can really polish the stuff up and have a lot of fun with it. Like this week's, I'm very proud of this week's. It's pretty freaking funny.
No, I think the way it's done is very persuasive. So, like, it's definitely working, man. It always gets my attention, for whatever that's worth.
No, that's what it's there for.
And yeah, if anything, man, I'll tune into This Week in Bigfoot just to see 2 minutes with Michael.
Yeah, you could skip through everything else, dude, and just watch that, man.
Everything else.
I'm just kidding. I know he's not going to do that.
So
yeah.
No, you have it. You also have the show. You also have the show wrapped up in a nice 30-minute package. So, and
that was important because I almost bowed out of doing anything on YouTube ever again because I was so tired of doing the 3-hour freaking interview, right? It's a hard thing to do, and it's just, especially when you have somebody that you don't really, or you're not really buying into what they're telling you, so you have to listen to their, you got to humor them for 2.5 hours, 3 hours. I think we know who I'm talking about.
Thanks.
But so I said to myself, and I think I talked to Michael, I said, listen, I'm going to do a half hour. It's going to be a half hour. We're going to get in, we're going to get out. Sometimes it's maybe 31 minutes, nothing over 32, because people just don't really care to pay that much attention. There's a reason that, like, if you look at all the old Looney Tune cartoons, right, the old Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck, those were all 7.5 minutes long for a reason. That's the attention span of a human being. So we try to.
Now we boiled it down.
Yeah, probably less than that now.
Yeah. The attention span could be measured in microseconds almost in some cases.
Yeah.
But yeah, so what say you, Michael?
Concerning what? The attention span? People have attention spans of guppies. Not only do they have attention spans of guppies, they have the memory of a guppy. Every time they go around the tank, it's a new experience for them. Look at the Ketchum Project. Like 10 years ago, everybody's forgotten about it. Like now she has more validity because she's going to sequence mermaid DNA. Come on.
And there's people that rush to her defense constantly. There's
all kinds of people.
Yeah.
How can you with a straight face go to your non-Bigfoot buddies and go, she's sequencing Bigfoot DNA, dog man, goat man, and mermaids and giants.
Well, the giants, yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't know. It just seems completely ludicrous to me.
It because it is. I mean, that's probably why it seems that way.
I'm not being mean. Like I don't have any ill will against this woman, but I just think this is complete insanity.
Sure.
Well, I think people are so desperate, right? So desperate to have some sort of vindication and some sort of scientific, like lab coat, like you said, lab coat with the mask and the gloves, and that person, even though that person runs a veterinary clinic that's been under the gun and under fire in the state of Texas for years, right? Even though that they put the lab coat on.
Have you checked recently? She's got an A rating on her business now.
No, I haven't. I have not checked recently.
Yeah, I went and checked. She jacked it up. It's an A. Thank goodness. Now we're fine.
Especially if you own a cat, right? In the greater Houston area or wherever she lives. No, but I think people are so desperate, right, for some sort of validation because they want it to be. They want it to be a monkey in the woods, right? They want it to be flesh and blood. They want it to be this. They want it so bad that they're willing to settle for this, and they're willing to forget the past record of somebody who really stepped in it.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
Well, and GoFundMe's not like Kickstarter, right? Once you give the money's gone. Correct?
Once it gets accepted, right?
Because I mean, Kickstarter. If Kickstarter doesn't go through, you get your money. They don't take your money. But
exactly.
But GoFundMe, once you put your money in there, I think you put your money in there.
So, wow, where do I begin? So the thing that happened before, right? The original Ketchum study, like when that hit the Bigfoot world, it fell flat on its ass. The Bigfoot world did not accept it. So at that time, and that was what was that, guys? Like 10 years ago?
Yeah, 10 years ago.
12? 10, 12?
She started the project 15 years ago because it took her 5 years. And she published the paper, I think, 9 or 10 years ago.
Right, about 10 years
And I think
ago.
didn't she have double-digit co-authors on the paper? I mean, there was a lot of people co-authoring that paper with her. And
she had a bunch of authors on there, but like she did the same kind of thing that Mitchell Townsend with his paper. Remember, he had this paper he concocted, and he was trying to make the argument that there were Bigfoot marks on these ungulate elk ribs, I guess.
Yes.
Well, he cited an actual peer-reviewed paper as one of his references, which supported the opposite of what he was trying to support. That this PH student, whatever, had done this study, and it showed that you could not determine the marks in rib bones. So with Ketchum, she did even worse than that. She had at least 3 dubious cited references. One of them was an April Fool's joke where they tried to make the argument that the Yeti was an ungulate, was a hoofed, had evolved from a hoofed animal.
Right.
Like it was a joke. It was an actual, and she put that in there as if she was thinking that was a real paper.
She should probably read all the way to the bottom of the things that she's going to put in the paper. Like actually, if she's got some sort of assistant, like a PA or something like that, so like copy it and paste it, to go onto the internet and grab anything that looks scientific from Bigfoot, copy and paste it and put it into the Word doc, and I'll sign it. It's probably what happened.
What they did, that they didn't really research the references they were citing.
And then whatever happened to Matilda? Where is Matilda?
Did you get that song, Wake Up Matilda? That I sent you?
No, did you? I have. Is it on?
You'll have to do a search for "Wake Up Matilda." This woman with a ukulele did this really funny song about Matilda. Yeah, we were promised a high def documentary. Supposedly, they had taken samples of DNA from Matilda, which the Ketchum Project validated as actually being from a Sasquatch, and the video, they claimed that they had the thing so habituated that they could just camp out next to it and count its sleeping breaths. Right? But I
remember that video. Don't wake Matilda.
And then nothing else ever came of it. We never heard.
Where is Matilda? That would be the first question that I would ask her in the press conference, right?
Right.
Where's Matilda?
Well, for whatever reason, right? Like, the actual Bigfoot world at that time, the 10-year ago Bigfoot world, was very, very, very underwhelmed by all of that. Thank God. Like, I say thank God. Like, so fast forward 10 years, a lot of things have changed. There's a lot more people in the game. The online presence, the Bigfoot online community is much bigger than it was back then. You've got the backing and support of like Steve Isdell, and
he's the one. First of all, he's the one that raised all the money for her, right?
Oh, absolutely.
His coalition
100%.
or his army raised all that, because I followed it. I followed that and he has that new round table of knowledge channel, but he was the one that solicited the money, and his army came out and they raised the money in like 4 or 5 days. So you give him credit. He did all the work for that. What he has in this, right? I don't know what his end game is and why he wants to be. I don't know. Michael, do you have any idea what's going on with the connection between those two? Because Paulides is in there somewhere too now, obviously. Because
of course, and Carpenter, same old players. Yeah.
Well, between the 3 of them, they have a huge amount of support in the community. A lot of people like those guys. If you take
the How to Hunt contingency and you take the M411 contingency, that is a large demographic of people that take up the paranormal. Yes, exactly. I mean, it's huge. Whether or not they're going to part with $1, right, is a different story. But you'll get the support, you'll get the thumbs up, you get the likes, you get the views, you get stuff like that.
Look, I know you look at your analytics on YouTube, and
all the time, baby.
Your channel is probably just like mine. Most of your subscribers are subscribed to those channels.
Of course. And that's why you'll notice on the show, and not just to backtrack for a second, is with This Week in Bigfoot, I have to bite my lip a lot, right? Because I have to, because it is a news show. They're not paid to get my opinion. Even though as much as I want to give my opinion, I have to bite my lip all the time.
Well, you're giving a balance. You're trying to give a balance, right? I mean, that's better than being polarizing, because when you're polarizing, you piss off half your audience. Right.
And I try to sit, and Pat knows me, I try to sit right on top of that fence, man.
No, that's
I don't know. Well, because I don't know. I don't know what the thing lays. Michael, we've had lots of conversations with you and Lady K about your experiences with Bigfoot. Those do not line up with what Pat has in mind for Bigfoot. But I don't know. So why would I pick one fence over the other? Right? You have to sit on the middle of the fence, and I try to do it as best I can.
Yeah, well, if you're doing that kind of content, you kind of have to provide a balance, right?
Yeah. But that being said, I think that the apers are so hungry for this DNA.
The apers,
right?
Oh,
I actually learned that phrase. That phrase was taught
is
to me
that
by
the
Michael.
terminology?
That was taught to me by Michael Merchant.
The apers, and then you got the psychic pony Wu Train.
There you go.
I mean, I mean, I've heard the apers thing from other places, but said in a like extremely condescending way, not from Michael, but
well, I don't. Here's the thing: I don't want to
be
condescending to people that are in the apers camp, because that's the progression. And when first I was a non-believer and thought it was all bullshit, and then I became an aper because that was the next reasonable progression to me. Okay, so the thing's real. It has to be an ape. Can't possibly using interdimensional doorways and flying around with aliens and mind speaking people. That's got to be a bunch of nonsense, right? Those people all got to be liars, hallucinating, and confused. Like, that was my position.
And that is, I think that's the logical transaction. I mean, for a transition from somebody to go from non-believer to believer, immediately you go to something yeah.
No, it's crazy. Why would anybody believe this shit?
Well, boy, you're getting into a lot of stuff to dive into there. I mean, if it's not an ape, what is it?
I don't know.
Even the dog pissed off. Even the dog's pissed off.
So then we're right into the I don't know camp. I don't know. Looks like an ape.
You can start hypothesizing and you can be making guesses about what it is, but then people are going to accuse you of explaining an unknown with another unknown, which isn't surprising.
That's a supreme contradiction.
The whole thing's an unknown. We don't know anything about this. We barely know that it's real, right? People will debate endlessly whether it's real or not. I really don't know interest in debating that it.
Well, the phenomena is real. I mean, people could debate about that. I mean, but the phenomena is 100% real.
No, you're absolutely right, Pat. That is absolutely true. The phenomenon is real, and for somebody to say that it's not, I have time to waste with them. That's ridiculous for them to be making that statement. And none of that statement will back it up with any kind of.
Sometimes they don't realize that. Sometimes you have to back it up. Like, you have to back it up.
You have to, but what are you backing it up with? But what are you backing it up with? That's the thing, is you can't back it up with evidence. You don't have any evidence. It's all analytical.
Well,
right? So you don't have any physical evidence.
It is,
so
but when
speculative,
once you reach a threshold of numbers with anecdote, then you have something. There's a big arrow pointing towards something that needs to be explained. So I agree. Like, me and Michael agree. Is like there's tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of actual anecdotal accounts that have a very solid commonality between them. You know,
I completely concur with both of you 110%. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing a show called This Week in Bigfoot, right? I'd be doing This Week in Muscle Cars or something like that, right? right. The problem I have is people feel the need to validate their side of the fence by slinging mud at each other when neither one of them have any real evidence, right? So we just have to agree that this thing is something's going on, right? That's what we know, right? And I once heard somebody say, it leaves footprints, so it must be flesh and blood. Right? That was their thing. It's like, if it leaves a physical track, it must be. I go, okay, if that's your threshold of that's what you need to prove that it's an aper, flesh and blood, then that's fine. I think that something could leave tracks and not necessarily be, you have to be, otherwise it would have been. Come on.
Well, again, okay, so I get that, and you're using a one-off anecdote that somebody said.
Right, I'm just using that as an example,
right? And that's fine. Everybody's opinions are welcome, but at the end of the day, when I look at the totality of it, it looks like an ape. Everything the commonality that it's like my buddy Ernie says. He says, I don't care if they come from planet Hairtron, they meet our definition of a primate. So by the optics of how they look, they do look like a primate. And then we get into it, what do you think of the PG film? Nothing magical happened there. If that's not a guy in a suit, then what is it? Well, it's not a magical being either. It looked like if it's not a guy in a suit, it looks just like an undiscovered hominin. So my position is one that's very simple: is there's a starting point. Everybody involved should just agree there's a starting point. Let's look to see if it is an undiscovered hominin, and we can move on from there. Because if we can rule that out, that's also very powerful evidence. So my frustration comes in that. It's like, yeah, they could be from Planet Hairtron and magical portals and all that shit. Fine. Well, there's no way we're going to get there unless we start at ruling out an undiscovered hominin, which I think can be done. So that's my position there.
I think, I mean, I'm not really sure why people still cling to the notion that that's possible, that it's an undiscovered primate, because if you look at the use of trail cameras, biologists use those to collect data and information on the rarest species and the most elusive cryptic creatures there are. That's how, if we want to go in and see how many snow leopards there are, we go in and we put trail cameras in there, right? We can't seem to get consistent trail camera photos of Sasquatch, let alone that one's never, ever been run over by a semi-truck and squished.
Right.
That I know of. I mean, if it did, the MIB scooped it up shortly thereafter and no one got their hands on it. Like, if it was a real thing.
That's not enough for me. Trail cameras, and one has not been hit by grandma in a car yet. That's not enough for me at this point.
Why are they not on trail camera? I mean, you've got to admit that it's a fact that, I mean, look at even
the only answer is we don't know why.
I mean, look at the Bluff Creek project. They ended up getting a very rare pine marten on.
Yeah, and that's amazing that they captured that thing, and that thing was tiny.
That's what trail cameras excel at, is getting images of.
Yeah, but that doesn't have anything to do with Bigfoot. Like we're talking about.
No, but you can go into an area that has that people will say has Bigfoot. Like, take for example I forget the name of the group now, but the group down there in Tennessee is just trying to shoot a Sasquatch.
No, NOAC, North American Wood Ape Conservancy.
No, yeah, not Tennessee. Texas or southeastern Oklahoma. Yeah.
Oh, Oklahoma. All right. So if you read the report they put out a few years ago, if those accounts are true, they have a lot of activity there. But to my knowledge, they haven't been successful putting trail cameras out and getting any.
Oh, they did. They put out
images of these creatures.
They put out a string of trail cams in one area. They called it Hadrian's Wall, whatever it's called. Hadrian's, I think. It's a nomenclature for something else historically.
Well, Hadrian's Wall was the wall that was on the north end of the UK, where as far as the Roman Empire got, right? That's as far as the Roman Empire got. They called it
that, and they did zero results from that. But that's a. I mean, see, so to say, well, they didn't get anything definitive, then we have to go into how competent are they, and how actually hot is that area. Just because they say it's hot doesn't mean it's hot. And I have a lot of criticisms to throw towards.
Look at it another way. There's another way you could look at it. Every single animal, or let's say mammals, let's keep it simple. Every single mammal of any size that exists in North America, people get them on trail cameras. Every single one. There's not a single animal that I know of that we're not getting trail camera images of. And if Sasquatch was a real animal, logic would dictate we should have trail camera images of it. We should be able to duplicate such things. Even if you're in an area where there's supposedly a lot of activity, it's kind of like more along the lines of some kind of weird poltergeist or something. The same phenomenon doesn't serve up the same bag of tricks each time. It always keeps you off balance. Like, you'll hear a bunch of vocalization. Oh, well, we'll get all this audio equipment. And then all of a sudden, you'll have visual phenomenon that, we'll go get night vision cameras. It's like people are always chasing the next, protocol or technology to try to capture something. And it keeps evolving.
I understand that.
Right?
And I understand that.
What's that?
And to that I say, there's a reason for that, and we don't know that reason.
No.
So to make the jump of, well, because I don't know that reason, I'm going to make up a reason, which is supernatural, which is a made up reason.
Well, I don't know if
that's not science.
Well, science, you'll put forth a hypothesis. You'll try to you'll make a guess, right? You don't know what's going on. So based upon the available data, you extrapolate and you try to make a educated guess of what it might be. And that's not just like pulling stuff out of your butt. I mean, that is science. Science is about asking questions.
It's pulling stuff out of your butt when you say it can't be a flesh and blood creature of this earth.
I agree wholeheartedly with Michael and with the trail cam thing for one reason. Besides the fact that there's an enormous amount of trail cameras in North America. In India, right, where there's people that are illegally killing the Bengal tigers, right? These guys are trained professional hunters and killers. They have a team of people that they have 2 guys that constantly look for trail cams the entire time they're on their hunt, because they're not supposed to kill the tigers.
Right.
Even those guys are getting caught on trail cams, right? So I tend to agree on the side of the fence where if it was just your relic hominid, right, it hasn't developed fire, it hasn't developed tools that we know of, it should not be able to avoid a trail cam unless there was something much more strange going on. That's not simply your ape in the woods.
I mean, that's just logic. Definitive. I agree with you on that, Pat. Like, just the fact that they're not on trail cameras isn't the definitive thing saying, well, they're not this regular critter that's running around the forest. But there's a whole bunch of other, I call it, this puzzle mosaic. You have some of these puzzle pieces, but you're missing these big gaping chunks, like not having roadkill, like not having a dead one. That's another thing. Rare animals get run over. Like, there was quite a few years ago, that was one of the ways they discovered, they could figure out there was like panthers in a certain area because they were getting hit by cars, right? I mean, if you got something hit by a car, well, obviously then, like, even really rare animals get run over by vehicles once in a while.
Right. Okay. So
let's spin it a different way. What is your rationale for thinking it is a physical creature, I guess, instead of for reasons why it couldn't be?
I say it's a good starting point. My rationale would be they look like a primate.
That's true. They do.
They look just like a primate.
Yep.
So therefore, my rationale goes grounded to that's a good starting point. Let's look. They seem to exhibit
primate behavior as well. You'll hear a lot of witnesses talk about what's known as a penile erection. I think that's the term. The hair that a chimp, when they get agitated, they'll put their hair
razorback. Yeah.
Yeah, and they'll also do this kind of thing. Quite a few witnesses will report them kind of rocking, which is another behavior that you'll see certain primates, engage in.
Yeah.
So you're right. It does. It not only does its morphology be very similar to a primate, a lot of its behaviors indicate that it would be a primate. But some of the other stuff that it does, like disappearing and turning invisible and doing all that weird shit that people report.
And we'll get into that, but I'll use the billy ape as an example, which is a variation of a chimp. Okay, to be fair, it's not like a super offshoot, undiscovered hominin. That wasn't discovered by getting hit by a car.
No,
that was discovered through anecdote, through science and anecdote, and then eventually science got interested enough to actually discover this variation of a chimp that was bigger, and it is, and it never got hit by a car.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's not a lot of traffic in the Congo, right? In the area where, but you do get Sasquatch in areas where there's heavy traffic.
Right. And again, I don't have the answer to that. I can't answer the road crossing thing. Like, people see him road crossing. I can't answer that. Therefore, because I admit I can't answer it, I'm not going to say, well, the only thing that makes sense is that they're they're fucking spirits.
They
don't care,
What would it take? Let me ask you a question, Pat. What would it take to because if you say that, and I don't mean to say this to pile up on you, but it's you said that there's obviously something more going on to this creature because it hasn't been hit, or apparently hasn't been hit. It can't show up on trail cameras, this and that. So what would that be? Like, what flesh and blood characteristic could there possibly be outside of
something we don't understand?
It sounds like it's a little bit more on the strange side.
Okay, so I mean,
I'm just curious.
Here's another way of looking.
Okay, but humanity has always been at the threshold of something they don't understand. We're at that now with all kinds of different things involving, down to the quantum level to even the big level in the universe, right? And I'm not trying to connect that to Sasquatch, but
Ron Moorhead style.
If you plucked the most primitive person on the planet right now, showed them an octopus, they would not understand it. Okay, so it's just simply something we don't know, and so to say, like, I'm not trying to answer the question. I can theorize just like you guys could. So I could go into the flesh and blood mindset and go, well, they have some, like, let's go down they see IR, right? Like, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to say they see IR. That's why they don't see the trail cams. I'm not going to go down that road because I'm simply saying I don't know. But there must
a lot
be
of animals
a reason. There must be a reason and look, I'm telling you right now, like, there's only one way to observe and learn something about the Sasquatch phenomena, and that is in a way that we understand it. Everything that works in this world currently, and maybe a little bit above theoretically, but not. You're never gonna, if you say it's a ghost or it's from planet Hairtron, you're never gonna understand it. You're like, we might as well just throw in the towel and say, well, this shit happens, right? Kind of like ghosts. This shit happens. And so that's where I'm coming from.
No, I don't want to undermine where you're coming from. I was where you were at one point, but I started asking myself these questions. I mean, your thing about not getting run over by a car is valid, but like I said, it didn't really apply to the Congo. But another way you could look at this is we've had a lot. I'm trying to think one offhand here. What was the monkey that the short nose? Was that? I think it was short nose monkey. I believe that was brought to our attention by a hunter, and there's been some a potential new species of manatee in the Amazon that a biologist collected the skull once again from a hunter. So even in areas where you're not running over these creatures with vehicles, usually if you go and talk to the indigenous people of the area, if it's a flesh and blood creature, they've killed it and Auduboned it and made a trophy, or they've got the skull, or they got a part of it, right? Well, I mean, this is how sometimes we'll, like, if you want to go into an area, what better resource do you have but to ask the indigenous people who live in the area?
Wait, wasn't that the silverback, right? The silverback was a myth for years, right? To the whites, right? The hunters, right? Oh, there's a silverback gorilla. So the hunters knew decades before. Discovered it. Huh?
Right.
Yeah, the indigenous people know about these things.
Yeah.
None of the indigenous people have killed Sasquatch.
No.
Nobody's killed one of them. People claim they've killed one of them, but they never provide a piece of it.
Right.
Okay,
so I
say, some known animal they're trying to.
I say to
what was the story in the Himalayas where Jimmy Stewart, like he took didn't Jimmy Stewart?
Well, he was funded by, I believe he was funded by Tom Slick. So Jimmy Stewart went there, and they've got this relic in a Tibetan monastery. Supposedly it's the hand, the finger bones.
It was the famous Yeti hand, right?
Right. And because he was he was a movie star. He got like really good access to this, and he had brought along a finger bone, and he switched out and stuck a finger bone in there because he was a movie star. He greased right through customs. But it's kind of funny because now if somebody was to go back and test it, it would be a human finger bone in there.
Yeah, either that or it's a chicken bone or something like that. I don't know. Jimmy Stewart, right? Who would have put him on the covert list for Tom Slick?
I thought it was a real bone. Like, if he get his hands on an actual.
Where is Tom Slick getting a real finger bone from? I mean, it sounds like I thought it was a chicken bone.
You probably get it from a doctor or somebody, right? You can buy human bones.
I think Slick would have been fun to work for. That guy, by all accounts, was a rich Texan, right? Wasn't he from Texas? Yeah. He sounded like he was having a lot of fun.
His last name's Slick, so there you go.
He was a promoter, right? That's what he was. He was a promoter, and he's like, he had a bunch of money. He's like, hey, let's go figure out this Yeti thing. Come on. Sounded like by all accounts, he sounded like a fun guy to hang out with. If you're gonna go look for Bigfoot, you might as well have a fun time, right?
Yeah.
Well, if you're not having fun, you might as well not do it.
Exactly. Right there, you go.
So we have a lot, a lot of Bigfoot reports in North America. And okay, so let's take North America. How many people are trying to kill a Bigfoot in North America? How many?
I mean, you want how many people will admit it? I mean, last time I admitted it,
whatever.
I said I would shoot one. I got so much shit. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, like how many people are actively going out in the woods, like locked and loaded, tacked and stacked, man, ready to kill a Bigfoot? I do,
but here's the thing: is I do think that there are a lot of people that hunt, and hunters are some of the best sportsmen in the world. I do think there are, like it or not, I do think there are a lot of men that are out there that if they saw one of those things, they would not hesitate to pull the trigger. As awful as that sounds, there are a lot of skilled deer hunter out there.
I believe that there's some. I say there's some.
Well, I'm just saying there's, but they're not, because there's, I don't think it's. I think you're missing the point with hunters aren't coming back. That you don't hear a whole lot of realistic hunter stories, I think, regarding Bigfoot. I don't.
Well, see, okay. So are we going to take the part of the anecdote where they say it looked too human?
Human?
Yeah, that I didn't, or maybe they say it was like I was too scared. Like there's no way that this gun is going to kill this thing.
No, Pat, you're absolutely correct. You hit the nail right on the head. There's two reasons. They either look at it and they're confused, like, is it a person? Is it a monster? Like, do I shoot this and then accidentally shoot a person that's wearing a suit? Or the thing's 15 feet tall and they're scared shitless, thinking, I don't have a big enough gun. I'm not going to kill it. It's going to kill me if I shoot at it, and they don't shoot it.
Right.
Those
are the two reasons why they don't shoot it.
So I mean, are we going to discount that anecdote, or does that anecdote mean something in the body of anecdote? Which I think is important, by the way.
Well, you can't cherry pick. I don't think you can cherry pick the stories, right? You can't cherry pick and say, okay, I'm going to believe this side, but I'm not going to believe this side. There's
a lot of that going on too, isn't there? Because
there's a lot of that going on.
There's a certain percentage of Bigfoot stories that are absolute bullshit. They're completely fucking made up. And we have to decide.
What is that percentage, Pat? What is?
I don't know. See, that needs to be mediated.
I think
to
it's
a ballpark.
You think it's pretty? You really think that? Okay, so wait, say that again, Michael. I missed that.
I think the percentage of people that are making up bullshit stories is extremely low statistically.
And it could be.
If you look at peer-reviewed studies, I've looked at this because I got a lot of flack from the skeptics that were saying all this bullshit, but they weren't backing it up with any peer-reviewed material to fit their narrative that they were all snuggled up in this cozy little comforter with. And I found out that they have done peer-reviewed studies on how many people lie. Very few people lie. You have a very small percentage of the population that tell the vast majority of lies. It's not like you've got 20, 30% of the population that's lying. You've got 2% or 5% that are telling 90% of the lies. And the vast majority of lies you told by the other people.
That's a good point. That's actually
our white lies. They're little tiny does my dress look nice? No, it looks hideous. Oh, but it looks fine because you don't want to hurt somebody's feelings. Like they're not doing these.
I get that.
supervillain lies. They're not crafting these complicated Rick Dyer hoaxes. That's a very small population, right? So now you're left with people hallucinating and being confused, and you look at the peer-reviewed studies on that, that's very low. So you're left with this huge bulk of eyewitnesses that for the most part,
it has to be something.
Right, according to peer-reviewed studies.
It has to be something that has not been explained. I agree. And that's what I call the phenomena.
Well, that's what I call the phenomenon too. You and I are on the same page with that.
Well, I think we all call it the phenomena. We just don't know which side of the phenomena everybody lands on.
That's the problem. You get these
because it's unexplained,
and say they know what it is.
Yeah.
It's this thing. Oh, I'm feeding it popcorn. I'm playing dominoes with it in my backyard, and I know it's right. I've raised its babies, and they'll tell all these crazy stories. Now, maybe some of these stories are true, but a lot of these people are really fixated on wanting to be like, hey, what I have to say is right, and what this other person is saying is wrong, and please buy my 10-volume book set and my cassette depths, and go listen to my whatever SoundCloud. Like they're all having a following, right?
I mean, like as far as the like really fantastical stories, like you just said, Michael, you like the whatever, we're
maybe
playing
they're
with
true.
them.
I don't know. They could be
like,
true. They sound like bullshit.
Hey, in 2023, it's as simple as pulling your phone out and just taking a 20-30 second clip even.
Yeah, but that proves all too difficult, man.
Look at the guy Igor from Russia. Remember he was saying that Sasquatch was calling him
he
on
was
his
on the phone.
Yes, of course.
Riding in his car with him. What does he provide up? It's the same kind of nonsense we get from Matilda. They hype this thing, and then we end up getting this blurry, pixelated, so they can sit on top and babysit this Sasquatch, count his freaking sleeping breaths, and all they got to film with it is a potato. Like it ends up being this huge, horribly pixelated, right? You can't get clear footage of this thing. You're 10 feet from it. And Igor did the same thing. Well, here's Sasquatch in my car. And there's a picture of a car and this blurry ass.
Oh, and it was in a tractor too. Wasn't he riding a tractor?
Yeah, I guess.
I think he was in a Mercedes.
Some AI stuff.
Get a freaking camera.
We agree. We all agree on that, but again, like going back to where we kind of started, like going, because I know, Michael, you had your own experience. You had your own one.
If somebody told me what they saw, I would have said they were an absolute loon, that they were out of their gourd. I could not believe what I saw. I still can't believe what I saw. Like it should not exist. All it's made me do now, when people tell me these outlandish stories, I'm not so quick to say they're full of shit because I saw something completely outlandish, right? And I consider myself a sane, logical person. I mean, I know I don't act it all the time, but I'm not a crazy person. I've been tested. I'm sane.
And that's what makes it so complicated, right? That's what makes this whole subject matter so complicated, because you will talk to one person and they will tell you the story. It's like, man, there's no freaking way I can believe this person. This is just ridiculous. And then you somebody, you meet somebody, you trust their opinion, and they tell you the same story from their side of the coin as far as what they saw, which was similar, but you trust them because I've listened to your story several times, Michael, and I believe every word that you said, because as a person, I believe that you are not batshit crazy. And I believe that you are not seeing things in the woods.
I don't think I am. I don't think I'm batshit crazy.
So there is that, right? So what do you say to somebody like that, Pat, that what he saw? Are you undermining what he saw? Because it's
stop trying to cause a fight here now.
I'm not, dude. I'm not trying to undermine anything.
Right in the middle.
I've seen, no, dude. That's fine. Dude, you guys can talk to me. It's all good, man.
That's why it's so much fun.
Look,
you know what's great about tonight is nobody's gonna get their feelings hurt, because we all have a fun time. We don't take it too seriously, but we all agree to disagree, and we have a good time doing it. That's what makes this night so much fun. Honestly.
Sure. Yeah, I agree. I agree. We all agree. No, look, I've seen a deer disappear in front of like David Blaine. Like, I was like, where the hell did deer go? It literally in one jump did a David Blaine like disappearing act, like magic. Oh, that's right. We're good at magic. We go to shows where we see people do amazing shit that makes no sense and throws our fucking brain into Like, how the hell did he do that? Even though we know he didn't actually cut that chick in half, or whatever, right? I'm just saying, like, magical things can happen and not be so magical.
Well, that's very true, but to address your analogy of a deer, I know what you're saying. I've seen a lot of deer and bear and moose. I would say it's probably safe to say that I've seen more than the majority of people because I spent a lot of time in the forest. And
sure, I believe you on that.
I mean, I spent time in the forest as a hunter. I spent time in the forest because it was my job to census rare marsh birds and shit like that. So I mean, I've spent a lot of time in the woods. I know the difference between an animal doing something that's possible and a thing doing something that's fucking impossible. Like there's a difference there. There's a difference between a deer disappearing. And I know what you're saying. They'll disappear right in front of you. And sometimes you'll be looking in the woods and there's nothing there. And all of a sudden the deer just materializes out of nothing because it's so cryptic, right? And it's hard for us to recognize that pattern because it blends in so well. But what this thing did, for one thing, the thing I saw was 15 feet tall. Like, it's impossible. How in the hell is that thing running around the woods and nobody's seeing it? Why is it not leaving ginormous footprints everywhere as it goes? Right? How does it come out behind a tree that's too small to hide it? Like, I'm talking a giant.
Like cartoon style?
Yeah, before it did the thing with the tree, it was like this weird shimmering, I don't know.
No, you know what? I've always heard the frustration in your voice about that, and I hear it now.
I sound like a crazy person.
Yeah, and I get that, but you have to realize, dude, that the world and me, even me, is not going to throw in the towel and say, "Well, they're from planet fucking Hairtron."
Well, I don't say they're from planet Hairtron, but
I know you're not saying that. I'm just generalizing.
I mean, if I did say it, I'd be kind of
sense of
joking way.
Thing. It's like, well, they're just some magical fucking creature that exists in whatever is. You can't define it because there's no explanation. And
they're very different from a regular. There's something different going on there.
And I say to that, why don't they show up in downtown Chicago? And again, I don't know. You don't know. You admit I don't know, man. All I know is what I'm fucking telling you about my experience, and right. I get that. And I just can't, like, at the end of the day, no matter how much I believe anybody says what they saw, I can only go to one place. That is a good starting point. They look like a fucking primate. And
you don't have to believe me. I am not offended when somebody doesn't believe me, because any sane, logical person should not believe what I'm saying. Look, they should conclude that I was hallucinating.
Dude, I'm just meeting you for the first time tonight here on the show. And
no, but I'm just saying that's what a logical. So you don't have to. A person doesn't have to be mean, right? A person could just be this normal, intelligent, logical, reasonable person, and they'd be like, okay, either you're lying, you gotta either be lying. Okay, well, you seem like a nice guy. You're probably not lying.
I don't think you're lying.
You must be, right? So you must be hallucinating, or you saw something. I get it. I get why people go there.
Right, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, and just remember, dude, I never followed that up with, you must have been hallucinating. Like,
no,
I
but
don't have
that's
an explanation.
what a sane person would tell me.
I'm not trying to explain what happened to you. I'm not. All I'm saying is that I can't take one anecdotal account and go and throw in the towel.
Well, see, that's the thing, though. Isn't it interesting? All kinds of people have seen similar shit. This is the thing. People see these things like that.
I actually have a report.
There's some weird stuff out there, but sometimes that weird stuff gets debunked. And I'm not saying you should be debunked. That's not where I'm going. But people have claimed weird shit and been debunked, and so at the end of the day, it's just it's a grounded reality I have to stay in, which is the world as I understand it. Airplanes fucking fly. The world goes around, man. 24 hours around. Fucking 365 days a week, man. Like there's
days a week
to the world, the reality of the world I live in. The sun rises every fucking day. These things look like primates, and I have to fall back on the PG film, which is something that I understand is completely not a guy in a suit, and it just behaves like an undiscovered hominid. There was no magic.
It's very interesting because it doesn't do anything magical or occult or defying.
So if it could have spun a goddamn portal, why didn't it? Like, so that's where my mind goes.
That would have really
spin your portal, get the hell out of there, right?
And nobody has duplicated it yet. I always get a kick out of these people that they say they've debunked the Patterson footage, and I'm like, well, if it's suit, why are you not wearing this suit?
Yeah,
like go show us this suit, this magical suit,
right?
That will look like that. No one has done that.
So again, so a point of agreement we have.
Yeah, that's true.
We managed to reach checkpoint.
The PG film, dude, is not a guy in a suit. It doesn't appear to be a guy in a suit, So therefore, I look at that, and what I see is so many interesting, like the intermingle index is off. Like this matches an undiscovered hominid. This matches like some kind of branch, that belongs in the Denisovan, Neanderthal category that we haven't found fossils of yet because the fossil record's incomplete. So it's all a no-brainer to me. I'm like, this thing is really, like that's my theory. This thing like really evolved and doesn't fucking want to be around us. It might be curious and maybe knows some David Blaine tricks, right? I don't know, man. The PG film, it's like I don't want to go to the point where, well, it's both. Because then, well, let's just throw Dogman in there too. Dogman's real. Like that's a fucking
Dogman's catching up to Bigfoot. You better watch out, dude.
Yeah.
All these conventions that used to be Bigfoot only are now Bigfoot and Dogman.
Let's bring the mermaid thing back, right?
That's right around the corner.
I have one in my hot tub. I have one in my pool.
Yeah. And so then we get to the flying spaghetti monster. I've got plenty of pictures of the flying spaghetti monster. I think I could start a whole thing over that, man. Let's look into what the flying spaghetti monster actually is. So at the end of the day, man, that's kind of where I'm at, is like, I'm not trying to belittle the weirdness, because this whole thing is a head scratcher, and I will admit it fully. But I just wish that everybody could get on the same page and say,
well, that's never going to happen.
It's never going to happen.
No. Well, the most important.
It's just not, Pat. I mean, think about this.
The most important people.
When they were doing the peace talks, right, for North Korea and South Korea, it took them 6 weeks to decide the freaking shape of the table, right? Was it going to be round? Was it going to be square? Was it going to be oblong? That's the same thing we have here with these two camps. These two camps are never going to get together.
Well, I could have solved that in one day. Say, make the table square. It's no big deal.
They actually made it round, so nobody was sitting at the head.
See, I would have made it square. It's not that. Like, okay, everybody on board. Sorry, that was the wrong terminology. Whoever the hell I can convince to say, look, a good starting point, because we can actually rule it out. It can be ruled out. If done right, we can actually say, hey, let's focus everything we got on its undiscovered hominin. And after a certain amount of time and a certain amount of serious effort, it could actually be ruled out. And then, boom. That's where it shifts to, I don't know. And that's where I leave the game, because I don't want to deal with spiritual entities.
It's hair
monitors. Like, yeah. Like,
if it's not an ape, I'm freaking leaving. My channel's gonna be shut down tomorrow.
Hey man, go play.
Talk is over.
I don't know. Like, I don't play with Ouija boards either.
But you have to, Pat, I think it's you're a very smart individual. I don't think it's that far out of the box or to understand that there are things within this world, right? Whether they're flesh and blood nature or not, there are things on this planet that we do not understand, and we probably will not have the ability or the concept to understand for a very, very, very long time. And I think the Sasquatch enigma, is part of that. Right. There are things to nature. Nature is a strange and wonderful place. And I think Sasquatch fits in there between these two planes of nature and whatever else is going on. Right. And I think it does it brilliantly. And that's where I think it is. I was originally a flesh and blood. I'm like, it's got to be. But the more I listen to people's stories and the more I realize that, there's 400 million trail cameras in the United States, right? They sell 45 million a year, and they still haven't captured a clear shot. And there's one hasn't been hit on the Trans-Canadian highway, right, in the last 100.
Neither have I. I haven't.
But I'm just saying,
I haven't been captured on a trail cam.
So I think it's
plenty of humans getting run over, Pat.
Lots of humans get run over all the time.
Statistics work large groups and very poorly for one person. The fact that you haven't been run over doesn't mean that people are being run over by vehicles.
True.
Right.
Nail on the head.
Look, I mean, I get that. Like, so the only place I could ever go with that is like they're more rare, but then we get into what it would take for population, right?
I don't think they're rare. I don't think they're rare at all. If you look at the number of eyewitness accounts, you have to, if you're being honest, you come to the conclusion that there's a lot of them.
Yeah, I mean, if you believe,
yeah, but what I mean, you say a lot. Like, what's your number, Michael?
Oh, you missed the whole. You missed the whole show.
I'm thinking the ratio is 17 black bears to 1 Sasquatch.
17 to 1, right? Right, which like Meldrum's thinking is 100 to 1.
I think that's a vast underestimate. I mean, really, the only way you have to look at to try to extrapolate. You do, wow.
No, yeah,
no.
Yeah.
I mean, the only way you can extrapolate.
Sorry, I'm having a good time here.
No, I agree that's 100 to 1 is not the right estimate. Yeah.
No, I mean, the only way we have to look at this, and it's not a very solid way, because like if you were going to do, like down in Florida, if they want to calculate how many bears are in an area, they have this protocol where they set up this barbed wire fence, they put some bait in there and some trail cameras, and the bears go through and they take the hair samples and they sequence them out to the individual bears, and then they do that for a period of time, I think like 2 weeks, and then they move it to another spot. And by doing that, they have this mathematical formula they can plug that into, and they get a pretty good, guess. They call it an estimation, but they're just guessing at how many bears there are. But we can't do that with Sasquatch because you can't get reliable DNA. You can't put up fence in the forest and have them run through it. The only way we can look at it is, well, how many eyewitness accounts are there, right? And
right now, you're damn right about that. That's all we got.
So a lot of people look at the BFRO,
yeah.
but the problem is that the BFRO eliminates, according to I communicated with Cliff Brockman, he says 33%, a third of them they don't even count.
They throw anything paranormal out.
Right. Yeah. They throw it. So they're filtering to match their confirmation bias that they have, which is it's innate.
Yeah, and I mean we have to get we would have to get confirmation at that percentage level. I mean, just because Cliff threw that off the top of his head doesn't mean
no, just let's say that they do throw a percentage of it out. Now, even if they didn't throw the percentage of them out, I personally know, because I think I calculated that I had interviewed 40 some people in 10 years that had an eyewitness account just in Maine. That's just me. And then I made a guesstimation as of how many Lauren Coleman, because he's another investigator who has a large database of, sightings in Maine. And based on that, I extrapolated that we were getting, and of course, all of this is prone to a lot of errors, that we were getting like 3,000 eyewitness accounts, 3,000 or 4,000 eyewitness accounts per year in the U.S. Now, now you're faced with, well, are we seeing these unique sightings? Are we seeing one individual, or are we seeing one individual 100 times? Right?
Just one Bigfoot. Literally.
Well, you don't know, right? But I mean, so you're making a lot of guesstimations there. But my guesstimation was, and I thought it was kind of conservative, that there'd be like 100,000 Sasquatch in the U.S.
I'm down with that.
Man, that's a lot. That is a lot.
Dude, that's in my ballpark.
Yeah, but here's what I'm saying is that's a lot for it to be an undiscovered relic hominid. I mean, that's just a lot because yes, you would have collateral damage. There would be one
big stadium.
Yeah, but that's a lot of
stadium.
No, I'm just saying that's a lot. It seems like there would be.
That's one Sasquatch for 17 bears. Like, it's not that hard to see 17 bears if you're in a bear dense area.
Yeah, dude. I mean,
right.
Yeah,
so you think that you would run across a couple of Bigfoot if you were in a Bigfoot area, like if you're up there with Todd Standing.
I think it was one Bigfoot for 33 square miles of, if they're in the right habitat. One for
is that the calculation you came up with?
Yeah. Okay.
One Bigfoot per 33 square miles.
Yep.
Yeah.
You're talking about what's 100,000 stadium? I mean, Mercedes Benz is 80,000.
Penn State University is 107,000, right? So that's
okay. Yeah. So a college, like one of the bigger college football stadiums, 100,000. So in one place,
imagine that full of Sasquatch, dude. Boy, that would stink.
Okay, so you take that amount of bodies in one teeny tiny little place and spread it out across North America. That's not a lot. I mean, that's,
but I'm saying
one animal per 33 square miles. That's 33 square miles is a lot of area to cover.
Yeah, but I'm saying that for 100,000, you would think that one in the last 50 years would have been hit.
You would think, but we don't know.
So you're going to conspiracy theory now. Is that what you're saying?
No. I did not go down a conspiracy. I did not say
you
because
just said
they
we don't
covered
know.
It up.
Well,
I never said that.
I don't. Well, it sounds like if I hit a Sasquatch, right, and I call the cops, right, and then I never hear anything about that Sasquatch again. Right?
I'm not saying that at all.
First of all, if I hit the Sasquatch, I would not shut up about it. I'd cut that freaking head off. I'd put it in my freezer, and I'd call Michael, and I'd drive up to Maine and say, "Check it out, bro."
Yeah.
And then we go right to your house, Pat. Road trip.
Yes. So would I. I would do something similar. So I'm not going down a conspiratory road. I'm just saying
it's full of them. That's the other thing that's frustrating about this community is people, and I don't want to bag on people, but people tend to come up with these excuses, right? They have to, well, it's we didn't find it, so it has to be covered up. That's what it's got to be.
That's
not always. It doesn't have to be like that all the time.
I don't buy into that.
There are some stories. There's one from Maine in what was Michelle. I'm going to say her last name wrong. Solidaire. She wrote a book, and in there she interviewed an individual who claimed that there had been a Sasquatch hit down a little bit ways past Belfast on Route 1A, and he said there was like 5 or 6 black military type sedans. And his thought was that the military was scooping this thing up. The next day he claimed that section of the road had been power washed. And then I had a person that contacted me on Facebook and said that I think she said she had hit one in like Pennsylvania or Connecticut, and a similar, like, the odd thing was that this guy said he couldn't understand how, if this animal had gotten hit, how these 5 like military type black sedans
they're so fast,
so quickly.
Yeah, like what's the police code,
no
right? When you call on the radio, is it like code 72? Somebody hit a Sasquatch, send the tactical response team from Bangor, quick.
Yeah, what I love about it is this insane idea that the Sasquatch cleanup fucking Fed crew is always on standby. Like,
somewhere within 25 minutes of wherever they are.
It's like the MIB movie, right? The MIB agents that they just show up and they neuralize
like the fucking guys that are actually sitting on runways right now in F-15 Eagles, ready to intercept Russian bear bombers or whatever. or preventing the next 9/11. Like those guys are actually sitting on runways right now, just sitting there waiting. Like that exists at some kind of level within every fucking county of the United States of America. It's absurd for Sasquatch.
As odd as it sounds, it could be true. We could even have members in our community, and they would probably be very popular. They'd probably run popular.
And they would be in the Sasquatch cabal.
Where they solicit all this information, and if something came up, they'd be the first ones to get it, and they just feed it to their black ops government buddies.
So there's like a section of the National Guard.
It could be.
I know, but imagine that. So you go into the ROTC, and they're like, "Hey,
talk about hundreds of thousands.
You've shown a strong aptitude for thinking on your feet. Right. We have a special spot for you." It's like being recruited by the CIA, right? There's like this Sasquatch relocation program, like the witness relocation.
Right.
They get put somewhere.
We would have to be a part of it. Like
I could be a part of it. The Sasquatch disinformation. What a better place to be.
Part of it,
Yes, what a better place to be than host of This Week in Bigfoot, the Sasquatch Disinformation Project.
Exactly, and you're talking about hundreds of thousands of people.
No, I honestly believe that people are genuine, because I and you've done these too. Everybody's gone to conferences and talked to people, and a lot of those people are maybe some of them need a little bit of attention and have over embellished the story. But every once in a while, you get the person there's really, why would you do that, right? Why would you really put yourself out there to have your friends make fun of you? Why would you? I mean, you'd have to be a sadist, right? Why would you want to do that? Unless you saw something. If I saw one, I mean, I've had some strange experiences. I have not been lucky to see one, but I've heard some really strange stuff that I could not explain. And David Ellis has said, "Hey, definitely a Bigfoot." I sent it to him. But if I saw one, I would not shut up about it. I wouldn't care what anybody said. I would tell everybody all day long what it was.
No, I didn't shut up either, but I'll tell you something. When I saw that thing materialize out of nothing, coming up behind, and afterwards I was like, fudge, like crap. I was actually
my camera.
No, I was pissed. Well, no, I wasn't pissed that I forgot my camera. I was pissed like crap. Now I got to tell people this crazy story.
Now, just to be sure, Michael, it didn't turn into a tree, right? It went behind a tree.
Yeah, there were trees there. There were hemlock trees there, and what it appeared to do was like it was this weird mirage that kept getting more and more substantial, but it was like shimmering and I don't know, man, doing weird shit like. It wasn't, but the best way I can describe it is some kind of weird heat mirage going on or something.
Okay.
And then all of a sudden it seemed to step out from behind this tree, and it was solid. It was.
Well, the reason I said that is because there's some people in the chat got in here late, and they were thinking that you said that the Sasquatch turned into a tree, and they're like, the guy's like, "Well, just cut the tree down, and maybe it'll turn back into Sasquatch." So I wanted to make sure.
There's a story from Maine.
That's Bodie. That's you, buddy.
I forget what the title of it was, but there was a guy on Shushunkcook Lake, apparently, and he was snowshoeing up to one of the logging camps to bring their pay in, and this Sasquatch started like following him or doing some shit. At some point, it deviated off and it went to this point, and he claimed it turned into a dead stump, and he went over to the stump and hit it, and the stump grunted. That's like a really bizarre, crazy story.
That's like shaman stuff, dude. That's like crazy Native American Indian paleo shaman stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. But that's one anecdotal account, man.
Well, I don't think that's probably
definitive of nothing.
No, the thing I saw, I don't think turned into a tree. I think I don't think it did what I thought it did. It looked like it came out of a tree and walked into another tree, but it was definitely doing some high strange.
Like one of those cartoon things where the big thing goes behind the small tree and just disappears.
Because I mean, this thing was ginormous.
It was massive, right? Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it was 15 feet tall. Like if it wasn't, it was a solid 12. But I'm pretty sure. I had Kathy go down and stand where the thing was. It was three of her, 3 times her height.
Yeah, I mean, you're already getting into
giant, like huge kind of shoulder. Long, big, heavy, muscled up arms. You know, it was solid, like giant muscles. And
I mean, if it was 15 feet tall, it couldn't physically walk around.
You wouldn't think so, but it appeared to move perfectly fine. Like it didn't seem to have any problem walking.
Yeah.
It was very
a 15-foot biped.
His eyes.
A 15-foot biped in a primate form would just be. It could never stand up. It would.
I know
be
people say
dropped
shit
on the
like that, like
ground.
they say that bumblebees can't fly, yet bumblebees fly, and then they turn around and they say, well, you can't have a crustacean getting a certain size, and you got coconut crabs. Like there's always an exception to these rules. People always come up with these things. Well, this is impossible, and
Not
then
with the
what about
biped.
this? That violates their impossibility. I
Not
can't
with a 15-foot tall biped in a
I don't know how
uniform.
it did or anything else. I'm just telling you that's what I saw was this ginormous thing that walked very gracefully, didn't have any issues doing.
It's supernatural.
Just freaking wasn't there.
Yeah.
And when
Obviously
I
was
where it had been, there was no tracks. Like this thing must have weighed, I don't know, a couple thousand, 3,000-4,000 pounds. Like, how come there's not a giant 2-foot, 3-foot footprint there? Why is there no tracks?
What was that movie, The 50-Foot Lady? You ever see The 50-Foot Lady, that movie? Where these following the big footprints? They're over here.
I mean, same thing. You can't have a 50-foot tall biped.
I was talking about an old movie from the 50s, 50-Foot Lady.
I did see a giant track up there.
I know what you're talking about.
Several years before I saw that giant thing, when Lady K had her sighting that same day, I had come across this huge track, but it was getting towards dusk, and I was trying to get up to where Lady K was, because we were in this area that we hiked in. There was no trail, right? And we're in this 15,000 acre tract of woods where there's no road. And she wanted to go for a walk. So I said, don't leave this brook. So I was a little anxious about, and it's getting towards dusk and she's not coming back. So I go looking for her, and I end up finding 3 really good tracks, but it wasn't like a trackway. They were like just individual one tracks. And then one of the tracks I saw was, was huge. It was 2 feet, I didn't measure it because I was like in a hurry, but I remember I stuck a stick next to it, and I went back the next morning trying to find it. I couldn't find it. And I thought for sure I could when I stuck
that old chestnut. That story Lady K had, that was a pretty creepy story, dude. That was good.
Yeah, no, that thing whistled at her.
Yeah. And I mean, Pat, what do you think of the women? Women will probably get more. I think women would attract Sasquatch if they're hiking by themselves more easily than men.
I have zero clue what that, if that's real, if that's even a thing, or what that would be. Really don't have an opinion on it because there's no data to back that, like to go down that road. It's again anecdote. One might could argue, but there's no data. Like I'll accept anecdotal data, but nobody's like taking notes on that shit.
I was just saying that it's an interesting theory though, because if it's an undiscovered relic hominid, you would think that a woman by themselves in the woods would be much less intimidating and much more appealing to something that's curious. That's what I was edging out.
They might be a gay hominid.
Hey, let's watch our pronouns here.
No, but he's right. I mean, there's human beings exhibit, aside from the current movement to say otherwise, human beings are, and quite a few primates actually exhibit sexual dimorphism, which simply means that the sexes look different, right? And male humans tend to be larger and physically stronger, statistically as a whole, over females. And so females would either be easier to prey upon, right? Or as you said, would be less of a threat to approach in the forest. I totally agree with you on that.
I mean, see, but that's a good theory that matches our understanding of the world, which brings me back around to this thing matches our understanding of the world. If it looks like a duck, quacks like a duck.
Well, that's exactly what I was hitting at before when you were saying here's the thing is, what if it was walking around with a giant hippo head on, right? That'd be an undiscovered hippo.
Nobody's
it could appear
nobody's ever reported that.
Because sometimes you hear people say it was an ape, and then some people say it was a wild man. It was definitely very, very much human. Like the one AI you have, Michael, that you sent me, is a little creepy. It's got the human face, like the human mouth part.
Oh, I know.
That's tough to look at, man. Like if I saw that through a sight, I would not want to. I can pull it up here if they want to.
Sure.
You know, I talked to the crop.
Oh, I'm not on
the crop duster guy down in I think it's South Carolina, the Skateboard Swamp, the lizard man sighting. He claimed that thing in profile had like a horse's head. It reminded me of the what is it? The Mandarin? Is it the Mandarin baboon? The male has a large, elongated snout. But he said when it turned and looked at him head on, straight on, as he was flying his plane 10 feet over this giant creature, that, by the way, was green, that it looked like a primate. He said it had fur on it, but it was green. It was a green.
Well, I would understand that because if you look at some of those alligators and crocodiles in the swamp, they tend to grow lichen and algae on them. And I would think that a primate or a primate in the with the heat and humidity and the dreads and stuff like that, I would guarantee that it would be pretty musty and I don't know if it'd be green, but it would be pretty mossy.
There's a fair number of green Sasquatch reports, but once again, we tend, as human beings, to filter out things that don't match our confirmation bias, even if we don't know we're doing it. So we tend to either not pay that much attention to it. The Sasquatch Chronicles did a episode where a person in Maine reported seeing a green Sasquatch, and they started questioning them. Well, could maybe it have rolled in green clay? Maybe it got a hold of some green paint. Like they wouldn't accept the fact that this witness was telling them, no, this Sasquatch was green. Like they were trying to, in their mind, figure out some other way. Well, how could, it can't possibly be green. But the green.
You saying that Wes actually challenged one of his
I don't know which
interviews, like you said Chronicles. So,
well, I don't know if I pronounced it right. I called Brandon's group the Karnak.
What's so funny is you were having like an epileptic seizure when you were trying to say Catskill Appalachian Research Collective. It's like right. What the fuck is that, dude? Yeah. Butchered it. He's been here. That was funny.
All right, so where do we go, guys? I mean, number one, like I'll say to the, I'll say to the side that, the woo side. There's no way it's an undiscovered hominin. All right. Well, where do we go? How do you catch that?
You're making these statements that aren't really where I'm coming from. Like we're a primate, right? And we're natural and real, but yet we fly. We get in trains that go way faster than we can travel normally. We have technology that augmentates us and allows us to do all kinds of things that make us superhuman. Even our where's my phone?
True.
Even this thing right here makes us into a cyborg, right? This makes us superhuman. We have access to information.
Those are all very visible tools.
Right, but you could also have at some point miniaturize these things. You might have tools that are not
pacemaker, hearing aids. Those are
excellent, right? Yeah. Those are things that are not contact lenses. You could augmentate your eyesight and not be able to see it. So I don't know what these things are, whether they're operating from some kind of purely innate ability or whether they're technologically augmentated in some fashion. But it doesn't mean that they're ghosts, and it doesn't mean that they're violating science. I mean, it could just mean that they're doing things that we haven't discovered the science as to how they're doing what they're doing. My big thing is I agree with that. I'm not accusing you of this because there are other people that do this, but I just don't think it's helpful to browbeat the eyewitnesses and try to label them all as liars and crazy and all this other nonsense. I think we should move on past that and like you were saying, like put some resources in it. What is this phenomenon? Like it's not useful for these characters to turn around and make these stupid ass papers like that guy did. I guess he's a biologist trying to make the argument that all the Bigfoot sightings are bears because in a few states that have high populations of bears, there's a corresponding high population of Sasquatches. But when you really look at his paper, there's a lot of exceptions to that rule, like Florida and Texas have high numbers of Sasquatch sightings and relatively low numbers of bears. Right. Maine has, I think, 35,000 bears, and according to the BFRO, we only have 19 Bigfoot sightings. So
yeah, but they're cherry picking. But you can't trust the BFRO, like we said earlier. You can't trust the BFRO because you're not getting
they're not the get all. Like I was saying, out of the 40 eyewitnesses that I've spoken to, I don't think any of them are in the BFRO. None of them.
Yeah, and it's just absurd on its face that to say, oh well, people who say they still saw Bigfoot or misidentification of bears when they're saying no, the thing was standing 20 feet in front of me at 4 foot wide shoulders, clearly human shaped, bipedal, hooded nose, like no snout, like at that point I'm like, no, you're using the wrong word. It's not misidentification, it's hallucination. Is the word.
It's like there's three things that we agree upon then, because
Steven Stroiford just joined the chat.
Well,
hey, buddy.
I knew we would agree on all three of those things. Actually,
I don't think that I think it's very lazy to try to make the argument they're misidentified bears. In order to do that, you would have to establish that the eyewitnesses were confused and couldn't tell the freaking difference between a bear, and it would be a more convincing argument to try to turn around and say that they were confusing humans for Sasquatch, because our morphology is more similar to a Sasquatch than is the bear's morphology to a Bigfoot.
Agreed. I mean, nobody catches a glimpse of a black bear and pisses their pants and goes, "Oh my god, I just saw a Sasquatch." That's actually not a thing.
We got to stop right there, because we all have to admit that there is a large, I'm not saying all of them, but there is a large amount of Bigfoot sightings that were actual bear sightings. Let's be honest. There has to be some, right? Misidentification as bear.
Misidentification happens.
I'm not saying all, and I'm not saying the numbers in that report jive, but some reports have to be, right? Misidentification.
Guess what never happens in those misidentifications?
Charlie horse.
People never piss their fucking pants. Those misidentifications.
It's some people from the city, dude.
No, it's the people that fucking whatever, come across one on the trail.
Oh yeah, that's a totally different story. I'm just saying that there are some misidentifications, right? That just happens
they don't
in nature life, right?
Yeah.
If you but if you're talking about the face-to-face eyewitness accounts or something like Michael saw, that I'm not saying that of course there's apples and oranges here. But I'm saying that we have to agree that some Sasquatch sightings are misidentification. Right.
Statistically, some of them would have to be misidentifications, but I think I think you'd have a difficult time establishing that the majority, and you'd certainly have a very difficult time to establish that all of the sightings are misidentified bear.
Oh, you could never say all. That's ridiculous.
Well, I think that paper, that's the argument that he was making, was that Bigfoot is not real, and that people are seeing bears and misidentifying bears as Bigfoot.
Yeah, I know. We did a piece on the show.
Well, I think that paper's ridiculous,
and that's frustrating to me, because I really want to go to the scientific community and say, "Hey, look, you guys have actually never dug deep. You've never come into the Bigfoot phenomena and tried to explain it."
Because we're all crazy. It's populated by a bunch of crazy people that are difficult to get along with.
Right. And
so
I mean,
I'm just speaking about myself.
I know, but it's so. I mean, I'm just sitting here. I'm kind of playing center field here, but you have to admit that the flesh and blood people are much more dickish towards the paranormal people than the paranormal people are towards the flesh and blood people. I mean, just a fact of life. I mean, for somebody who's I observed.
No, man.
I observed
the woo crowd talks a lot of shit, dude.
I don't know.
I mean, me personally, I'm not going to talk shit about the woo crowd, because I'm like, there could be something there that we don't understand. I can see that up front. Like, there's something going on that we just don't get. We don't understand as a species, as humans on this planet. And I can't say what that is. So, like, me personally, dude, I'm not talking shit. All I'm saying is,
why not? Everybody else is.
Well, because I'm trying to be fair. I'm trying to be fair.
No,
like,
I'm just kidding.
I'm trying to be a fair person, actually. But all I say is, it looks like a damn primate. It's a good starting point, and that's where I'm going to start, and we can rule that out. It could, if it done right, it could be ruled out.
Okay,
there is no undiscovered hominin walking around North America. It's ruled out. We debunked it. It's been debunked. It's ruled out. There's no fucking way that's a thing.
How do you do that?
How do you do that? It jumps straight into the unexplained beyond that.
The guy's name was Flo Foxon. That was his name. I was trying to think of the guy's name that wrote the article because he had a really hard British name to say. Flo Foxon.
Yeah, I read that article.
Yeah, but I was trying to remember the guy's name. So let me ask you a question, Pat. I'll turn this around on you. It's your show.
Go for it.
Is you've got Melba doing the DNA, right? If her DNA comes back as a report, is that good enough for you? You're looking for proof. How are you going to get the proof? You got to run DNA somewhere, right?
No, well, Melba's not credible, obviously, dude. I mean, come on, like there's zero credibility there. Like, where are you saying some kind of miracle, like publishing that turns into more publishing?
No, I'm just saying what is your bar? Where's the what evidence will you suggest? What is going to be good enough for you to prove that it's like what is going to close the book on Pat Turner as a Bigfoot enthusiast if it's proved not to be a relic hominid? What would be that evidence?
Wait, whoa, that's proved to not be?
No. What would be the evidence that because you said you got me confused now. You said that you want to close the door on it. There's no possible way it could be a relic hominid, right? You want to close that door first,
right?
What closes that door? What is that?
Okay, what closes that door is a serious attempt to collect a body.
Body in a box.
There we go. So we should just open up a bounty, like a seriously $10 million Bigfoot, but a real one.
Yeah, but where does that money come from? So this will never happen. So therefore, the dog will keep chasing its tail for the next 50 fucking years. It'll never happen. Nobody will ever make a serious effort unless some kind of medium evidence comes along that convinces science, who has money, and they will fucking go for a body.
Here's the trick of it, though.
Yeah. So unless there's a bridge to science that really convinces them that, okay, there's something here, we need to check it out, and they go check it out, and they can't get anything, then the door is closed. I mean, in other words, it'll take a real effort.
Well, I think if once you produce a dead body, then game over, right? It's flesh and blood, right? If it dies,
unless it disappears.
I'm asking Michael though, if it dies and bleeds, does that make it?
Yeah.
What does that make it, Michael?
Yes. If a real body is dragged into town, then we'll have 10,000 more answers than we have now. Absolutely.
I don't think we're going to get a body because we've never come across. I don't know what it's going to take to get a body, but I don't think we're going to see one. And here's the thing: like, let's say hypothetically that it's real, right? It's a real creature, and then let's say that it's doing these outlandish psychic pony woo train things, these crazy things. Well, like I said before, is this an innate ability it has, like an octopus, can change its texture and change its color, or is it something that's augmented by some type of high technology that we don't know about? I mean, I would think it'd be either or. And then what could be a third option? I don't want to get accused of doing a dichotomous fallacy.
Oh, it's too late. You've already been accused.
Well, you make a good point. I mean, I understand your point. Once it's dead, you can't learn a damn thing from it anymore.
Oh, you can learn a lot from a dead body.
I mean, you can learn from the body, but you can't learn about behavior or once it's dead, right?
No, but if you had a body in the box, like Brandon said, that would prove that it's real and it's physical. But that doesn't mean that it's not capable of doing these crazy things. Like if we were to take the things that we're capable of doing now and go back 1,000 years, they would think we were gods. flying around and talking on the telephone, getting information.
Saying Sasquatch is 1,000 years from the future?
What's that? I don't know.
There's a great story actually of when, I don't know if anybody heard this, but when the Spanish first came to somewhere in the West Indies or something, it wasn't Columbus, but when they first came to a place where there was Native Americans, the Native Americans could not even comprehend what they were seeing as far as a boat. They had no idea what this was. So when they tried to go back to their village to tell them what this thing was, nobody could understand the concept of a ship, right? Of an old three-mast. What are those things called? What are those old ships called?
I don't know. Sailing.
Come on, you live up in Maine, fucking Cabot Cove, and all that shit. Murder She Wrote, right? What are the
galleons?
Okay, whatever. A Spanish galleon. There you go. That's what it was. But they couldn't even comprehend what that was. So they literally had to bring them down to the shore to see it, because in their mind's eye they could not comprehend what that thing was. So there are instances where there could be things going on that we have no idea. We don't know. We are far from the end of the road for evolution for us. So there could be technology, there could be, and I'm thinking, there could be stuff going on in nature that we don't know about, right? So Bigfoot could be part of that. Bigfoot could not be part of that.
No, they could.
That's what I was getting to in a roundabout with long-winded ways.
Physical thing.
You're implying a lot, though. It's a huge implication.
What's that now?
That's a huge implication. If you're going to use that analogy, dude, you're saying we're the primitives.
Yes, we could be. We're
the primitives that are dealing with the whatever 1,000 years ahead of us, and we just can't comprehend it.
How much of our brain do we use? Right? What is it like?
They don't
5%?
fucking wear clothes, man. They look like monkey people. Like they don't look like advanced. This isn't the UFO thing.
Bigfoot, like an old Spring Break '89 fucking tank top, dude.
Yeah, I mean, they bang on trees, they do wood knocks. I mean, yeah, man, I mean, to me, that's going down a weird road, because it's not time to go down that road.
No, but I'm just saying I think we all agree that there's something going on, right? There's an hour and 37 minutes into the fact that we all agree.
We may agree, but the skeptics don't agree. The skeptics want to just, yell straw man argument, logical fallacy.
Yeah,
they do. They do the same thing.
I know.
But
I made a video where I asked them to back up their narrative with peer-reviewed articles. That video was never addressed. Nobody's ever done it. They want to fight on Facebook, but they don't want to provide.
I can arrange that for you. Look, to be fair to them,
I'm not really vested either way, but I just think
I think you should. I think look, if you're gonna put that call out, I think you should back it up if they come. But
you put the call out.
I requested for them to make a video addressing my video.
To be fair to them, we can't fucking explain it either.
No, you can't explain it, but I think you can establish that, as you and I seem to agree, that there is a phenomenon. I'm not really nitpicking what it is. I just think that you can't ignore all the eyewitnesses and the other fringe evidence.
I agree. Even if I've always said this since day one, even if every single person is lying, that's still a strange phenomenon.
That's
like
true.
This cult of liars that seem to be all on the same page, and don't break character. That's fucking weird to me. That would be weird if that were the explanation. It's not. Just like hallucination. There's no reason to think all these people are hallucinating either. Just like you.
Well, according to the peer-reviewed study, something like less than 5% of the population will hallucinate at least once in their life. The majority of people that are hallucinating are diagnosed, they have schizophrenia. They have some diagnosed mental ailment. Most of us running around are not hallucinating, and we're not confused about what we're seeing, and most of us are not lying. And the skeptic has to turn around and debunk every single one of those eyewitnesses. And they'll claim that they have, but I just don't. I think it's an empty claim. I think that alone establishes that the phenomenon is real.
Yeah, it is. I mean,
and really, if you think the phenomenon isn't real, why are you so vested in it? Why would you spend so much time arguing with a bunch of crazy people that are liars and hallucinators?
Well, because
like
some skeptics like to debunk stuff. It's in their nature. That's just the nature of who they are, and that's fine. I have no problem with that. I've debunked a lot of things, over the past 30 years of my growing in knowledge of the world. I've debunked some pretty stupid shit that's come dropped in my lap. Bigfoot's not one of them. I can't.
Well, you can debunk stuff, but I think if you're turning around and making a statement, and the peer-reviewed articles show the opposite of that, and then somebody says, "Well, could you provide peer-reviewed material to back up your narrative?" I think that's a fair request, and when you don't do that, that's kind of weaselly, in my book. And I don't know. I probably talked about it more than I wanted.
It's
tonight.
not. Yeah, dude. Look,
I thought
some of them are not bad guys. I mean, I'm a skeptic. I consider myself a skeptic. We're all skeptical of something. So,
there's skeptics, and then there's serial skeptics that do it for a hobby.
Yeah, capital S. Let's call them capital S. And they could be dickheads. They could be just complete assholes. I get that, dude. But they're good. They're a good skeptic.
Oh, people should be skeptical. People should not believe these batshit stories. And like I said, even my account, like any normal sane person should discount it. Like if they believe what I'm saying, that's fine. But I'm not going to get upset if they don't, because it's so ridiculous. Like, why would you believe that? I wouldn't have believed it. People were telling me that kind of stuff, and I was making fun of them. And I feel bad about it now.
So now you're on the other side. Now you're on the other side of the coin, dude.
I was one of these serial skeptics. I know how they think because I was in that camp. I was doing that shit. I feel really bad about it.
Yeah, I understand, Michael. Like I get you, dude. Your passion shows through. It does, and that's what makes the 2 minutes with Michael Merchant so great on the Bigfoot Weekly stuff, man, is because your passion does show through. So,
well, the other thing that's very important about the show, and I want to make sure that everybody understands this, is that while it's a serious news show, we do not take ourselves too seriously, right? We always have a good time doing it, Michael. I think that's the important thing, because if we don't have a good time doing it, why the hell are we doing it, right? And so
I used to get upset, but I've moved on past that now. I'm just kind of.
Well, I'm just talking about what our relationship with the show is what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I mean, so, I don't get all worked up about something like that. What's the point?
Yeah, but it's nice to have it's a fun show, and we're going to be hopefully around doing it for a while.
Well, you're gaining popularity by leaps and bounds. So.
Yeah, baby, dog. There was actually some real cool stuff going on. I'll have to chat with you. I just emailed you the link. I'm sorry about that, and we'll have to check it out. So. Looking forward for tomorrow's show.
Me too.
Well, that's what I like the most too. Is like I said, I got away from the live thing, so now we do the pre-record. It's in the can. It's loaded into the chamber, and I don't have to worry about it. Right? I got 2 or 3 days off, and I don't have to worry about it. Instead of sitting around waiting to do the live show.
There's something to that.
Just push play, and YouTube takes it from there.
Yeah.
So, Pat, I have a question. It's not really Bigfoot related.
Okay.
It kind of is. What do you think the advantage is of Melba putting out there that she wants to sequence mermaid DNA? Like, what is is she trying? I know mermaids are a big thing now. Do you think she's trying to recruit people that'll, new people to get their money, or?
I don't know. I mean,
I think that's what it is. I
thought it was a joke when I heard she was going to sequence big mermaid DNA until I watched her on a podcast, and she said that's what she said.
Dude, I have zero explanation from that. She is a fucking kook, and she just fucking threw that out there, I guess, bro. And it's out of my hands. She's nuts. I mean, she's just fucking delusionally nuts.
It is. I think it's an attempt to attract to a broader audience for more money. Right? That's the same thing. That's the same thing with the Dogman stuff. We're trying to get to a broader audience.
Right. And so yeah, all I could speculate is that came from like some kind of shoulder tapping, whispering in the ear of like, just like Brendan just said, like, we have to broaden things and make, get more money,
this Greek billionaire that'll give you money if you talk about mermaids because he's lived in Greece and he's got mermaids and stuff. Like
maybe so.
Hot tub company or something like that.
So yeah, I guess
what was there was $500,000 spent on the last report. $500,000.
No, that can't be true. Is it true?
Yeah,
really?
I don't know if it was that much.
Yeah, what it was.
But if it was, then I mean,
guy's name Wally Henderson or something.
I know she had a lot of big backers, but I didn't know if it was. I didn't know it was that much money. Jeez, that's a lot of money to piss.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Yeah, it's absurd. It's just like, and dude, these people are gonna do what they fucking do. They're just gonna fucking do what they do. They're gonna throw the shit out there. It's gonna fall flat on its ass, just like it did before. Like nothing's gonna come out of that.
Who was the one that said, "Hey, let's get the band back together, man"? It's like hey, like it was such a success, right? Let's do it again. That was such a great time. Yeah, right?
DNA.
Who was that? Right? You know what? It'll work.
Here's my thing, right? You've got DNA. Here's my little microscope slide with some DNA on it. I want to see the 800-pound Sasquatch you got the DNA from. I'm not interested in this little piece of spit on your microscope slide. I don't understand.
Yeah, I hear you.
Focused on that. Like, we're going to get a report. Well, what about the Sasquatches you get in the DNA from? Why are we not getting clear images of them, right? Like we had the sleeping Matilda, blurry as all hell. And they dangled that carrot in front of us, like, we got this crystal clear footage of a Sasquatch sleeping.
So I guess Wally gave just 500 grand by himself.
Yeah, I heard there was 500. Oh, so there was more than 500,000.
Yeah, so
that's what Stropper says.
Yeah, I mean that's. I guess if you got the money, right? And I mean that's like, I guess he wanted to be the next Tom Swift, right? Be that guy that finances the Bigfoot thing, and I'll give you the money.
Another GoFundMe then, because the 20 grand is not gonna. That's not even going to get her out of bed in the morning.
Well, there was like, if you look at the old one, what we were talking about this is there were promises of like executive producer credits, red carpet treatments, VIP meet and greets with all these celebrities, like all this stuff. It's like, and I think there's still money on the books there. If you go to GoFundMe, there is like $3,800 from one of her old studies, one of the old Bigfoot things. It's just sitting there. It's like, who's giving her money this time? Where has anybody checked? Has anybody? Let's go look and see where we're at with the GoFundMe. I'll go look.
And I mean, I just did a show. Like, I think my last show was about this. It's like that whole crowd is.
What do we search for? Fucking batshit crazy fucking DNA searches.
Way too many Nephilimers involved.
Nephilim
in that.
You can't even.
She's kind of a Nephilimer, right? She's a Nephilimer.
I don't understand how we got to the Nephilim with her, other than that it came from like Scott Carpenter, because initially she was saying it was human and lemur, right? And then she kind of transitioned somehow over into angel DNA, which I still don't understand.
Angel DNA.
Where's your holotype? Like, what do you have to compare it to? Why are you saying it's right?
I know, right? Well, that's that angel DNA was unknown.
But how do you determine it's angel? You get this DNA and it doesn't match anything in GenBank. Somebody gives you this strand of DNA, doesn't match anything. I mean, I suppose you could go look at it for what it's related to, right? Like, it's closely related to humans. But I still don't see
they tried to.
But it's an angel.
Yeah, she wanted 20 grand. She got $23,754.
They tried to tie all that together with biblical narrative. I mean, that was the tying of it. And it worked to some people, that want it to be that. They want it to be that. So therefore,
and I am by no means an expert on like hybrids, but generally, like, let's say she calls mermaids a hybrid. Fish and people are evolutionary, we diverged a long time ago.
Yeah.
The longer that we've diverged from a common ancestor, the less likely it is for us to produce viable offspring or to produce offspring at all. Right. So you can have certain animals maybe produce offspring, but they're infertile or it's difficult for them to breed and produce offspring. But then you've also got organisms that have diverged along, let's say like us and a fish. We're not going to produce offspring if we make fish. That's utterly ridiculous.
That's a mermaid, dude. That's a mermaid.
Oh, that's what she's saying. And it's kind of similar with her claim that, you had angel DNA with humans. Well, was this an ongoing process or was this just a one-off thing? Because if it was a one-off thing and now you've got this hybrid that's half angel and half human and you breed it back to humans, it only takes like 10 generations and you're down to only, less than 1%.
Yeah, exactly.
Now with Neanderthal, we're basically, hybrids, I guess you could say, because we have Neanderthal DNA in us. And as a whole, as the humans as a whole, we contain about 20% of the Neanderthal genome. But as individuals, each one of us have probably less than 3%. Most of us have about 1% Neanderthal DNA in us. But the Neanderthals were breeding with humans over thousands of years. It was an ongoing process. It wasn't just a one-off thing.
It wasn't a one-off. Yeah.
That's another thing. We hadn't diverged. Our common ancestor wasn't that far back.
Wasn't there some lady, some Russian, wild woman that they had a couple of years ago, like several years ago in the 70s in Russia?
I think Melba even had a sample of that she wrote.
They claimed that she was a Neanderthal, like a relic, an old. I don't know.
I think Melba was in the case that she was.
She's got that in her fucking in her file cabinet. At the so the largest donation was $2,000. I checked. I just checked. $2,000, but she's got $23,000, $23,700.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay.
I look forward to her report. I really do. I cannot wait because it's
going to be a documentary now.
Is it?
Probably.
Well, I heard it
beautiful drone footage of a herd of foraging Sasquatches. Riding mammoths and carrying dodo bears.
I picture a drone when you talked about that. I picture a drone footage of just a drone sweeping over this huge vista.
David Attenborough narrating. That's what it's going to be. I can't wait. I'm so excited.
Yeah. Now, is she planning on just putting it on YouTube? Was that the case? She was just going to. She didn't want to deal with. I mean, there's got to be right. You do this to get.
She's not going to do the peer review route because she got
She can't get. She's not going to get it
because the. Whatever, the scientists are against her. There's a conspiracy against her.
Well, come on, that ship sailed. That ship
had
sailed
nothing to do with her
10 years ago.
Angels, that Bigfoot was half angel. That had nothing to do with it.
Think she's going to sneak that past? How would you like to see the list of the people that actually signed their name to the peer review? She did the peer review. You're like, who are these people?
Well, it wasn't peer reviewed. I mean, she published it in De Novo, which apparently she bought.
Right.
So, who peer reviewed?
when you have all this money,
self-published.
Oh, I'll peer review it. Oh, looks great. Let's publish.
Yeah.
I wonder who has the receipts from that first study. I'd like to go through where the money was spent and see, because she did all the work in her lab, right? She did all the work. Yeah. Well, she did all the work in her lab, so that she must have pocketed a lot of that money.
We have, I think, Josh Gates to thank for all this nonsense because he was the first one that sent her some Yeti.
Oh, that's Yeti DNA. It was on TV. It was true. It was on TV. Yes, remember
somewhere, some weird.
I think he was with Adam Davies. Adam Davies got suckered into doing that episode with him out there somewhere in.
But I'm talking 15 years ago.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
That had
Destination Unknown or something like that, right? He had that show.
Was that 15 years ago? Yeah, Expedition.
God, time does fly. Expedition Unknown or Destination Unknown. Something unknown. We had his adventure hat, and he was running around the country looking for strange stuff. And he came back with a footprint, right? Didn't he have a footprint?
I can't remember.
Yeah, I think Adam Davies was
hired her lab to sequence the DNA, and that's what got her foot in the door of the Bigfoot community. It was like, here's this, geneticist that'll
so the TV producer picked her lab out of a phone book. Probably the producer probably lived in Texas. Said, okay, DNA lab, DNA lab, DNA lab, DNA lab. Oh, Ketchum's DNA lab and cat clinic. Yeah, I'll take that.
They should send it to Dr. Todd Disotell. He's already had experience doing that. He's a legitimate geneticist. He's a very intelligent person.
Todd is a great guy. He hunts up here by me. We hunt together. Well, we don't hunt together.
But
he
hunts the DNA. Why are we sending to this cat veterinarian that has no credibility? That's already proven she doesn't have any credibility.
I don't know.
I don't.
Well, that's television for you, right? It's all started back with a TV show, right?
Yeah, no shit. So hey, my pewter is dying, man.
Yeah,
I gotta wrap it up.
All right. It's good to see that Expedition Bigfoot got signed up for episode season 4.
Yeah.
Yes.
But did they?
It'll be on next week's. It'll be on next week. It'll be on next week's show.
Right. Yeah. All right, man. I gotta wrap it up, guys.
Okay. Had a blast.
Yeah, it was fun.
Thank you for inviting me.
No problem, man. You are welcome back to Squatch Talk.
Just make sure that everybody knows that tomorrow night, 8:00 on on the CARC Universal Channel, This Week in Bigfoot, the place to be for your Bigfoot news.
Agreed.
The fastest 30 minutes in the cryptid world.
It's the only thing going on as far
looks like your microphone broke.
Content, yeah.
Did you break your microphone?
Did I?
What are you doing? You're holding it with your hand.
It came off.
The wheels are literally coming off over there in Aprilland.
The wheels are coming off the bus, bud.
All right, we'll let you go. Sorry about
Which
that.
Never happens. All right. All right. Thanks for being here, Michael. Thanks for being here, Brendon. We'll see you guys next time. I'm gonna wrap it up.
All right, Mike. I'll talk to you later, buddy.
Later.
I'm gonna check that. So check your email. Check your email.
I got it.